help them access ways to obtain and maintain stable employment. Fourth goal is to prioritize those most in need. This is already a requirement of most of our grants. And so one of the things that we're looking at is kind of revamping our prioritization tool. And there are some things that we're trying to do. I'm sure some of you that have been over to the health department for the board meetings have seen the lines outside my office. We're trying to reduce that. It's kind of a never-ending battle. One of the things we're looking at doing is developing a web-based application so that those households that have excess can fill out an application online. Trying to streamline those. We already provide prioritization points. We have our prioritization tool outlines. They get a point total for, if they have a disability, how large their household is, how many times they've been in and out of homelessness, a whole number of things. And the people that score the highest are those that receive the assistance first. Obviously, we don't have enough funding to help everyone, and so we try and help the people that are most in need, that score the highest on priority. The last goal was just to increase access to stable housing. One of the kind of primary issues that we've talked about, quite frankly, we talked about it in the last housing plan as well, but it was a focus this time too, was the lack of low barrier shelter options that we have. And so, there are shelters in our community. We have the Union Gospel Mission, My Friend's Place, which is a youth shelter. We have the domestic violence shelter, but there are a level of requirements that people have to meet to get into those. And so one of the options that Commerce has provided for us previously is funding to support, particularly in the cold winter months, households, placing them in using hotels as emergency shelters. And that's expensive. And so this group really wanted this plan to focus on, how do we find a place for a low barrier shelter and support those efforts as best that we can. I think that is the kind of the Reader's Digest version, if you will, of the housing plan. Again, we've had public comment section for an extended period of time towards the end of the development of the plan, and all of the public comments and responses, the public comments are at the back of the plan verbatim as to what they had identified, and then the response to those as well. So are there any questions?
Yeah, we had a presentation by a nonprofit group that came with low barrier housing. Does the housing plan address funding those or assisting them, those groups that want to put in the low barrier housing?
Yeah, and I think, of course, funding is the driving factor in all of this. I think we've got goals that without funding will be difficult to achieve. And so I think some of it is looking at what funding we currently have. We do have local dollars that we can't support fully projects, with our affordable housing fund and our 1406, but historically what we use those are to partner with, we've partnered with like the Kennewick Housing Authority before on some of their projects, in the county provides, a couple $100,000 for a land purchase, and they develop a multi-million-dollar. They leverage those local funds. Oftentimes there are scored competitive applications for additional state funding, and when there's local funding tied to that, it increases their point total. So that's typically how we've supported capital projects in the past. But the reality is without additional funding, likely coming from the state, some of these projects will be difficult to launch and maintain.
Kyle, in your estimate, I mean, you've been around a while. I mean, the legislature appropriates billions for housing. I mean, does it get over this way much of it?
You know, it does. You know, we do receive funding. I think the one thing that and even I noticed it in our planning committee for this is a lot of people don't understand. You know, when the state gives us money, they tell us how to spend it, and so we may get funding that, you know, and again, my take on it is I think that we have a lot of funding for example, emergency shelter, hotel stays. It would have been nice to be able to do some other things with that funding, but it's
designated.
It's designated, you know, and so the largest grant that I have is our consolidated homeless grant, and there are like 7 different line items within that grant, and that's about $8.5 million a year. So it's not insignificant money, but you know, what the general public needs to understand is we can't do whatever we want with that. You know, each line item has, you know, we'll have funding for eviction prevention. So someone who falls behind on the rent, there are several programs within there. It's a housing and essential needs. And there are people that are deemed eligible through DSHS. They come over and apply, but the housing subsidy for that program is minimal. And there are all these other line items and so they kind of carve into the dollars, and there are specific services that we can provide for that, but we can't just take that $8 million and throw it at an emergency shelter. It doesn't, unfortunately, we can't do it that way.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just real quick, couple things. First of all, I appreciate your department, and I know when we go to the Ben Franklin Board of Health meetings, I do see that line, and it's pretty significant. And I know you guys do a lot of work over there, and help a lot of people under the Department of Human Services. I'll probably, as you said here at the very end, I'm going to talk to my 2 fellow commissioners because we can only talk in public about an item which you'll be part of if we make that to fruition. I know that between our county and Franklin County Human Services is going to be split come June. And I know that it was very important to me, and I know for my other 2 fellow commissioners, that when that split was going to come into effect, and we did not initiate that, Benton County did not, I wanted to make sure that all the different programs that you do for the public and for people in need continued on. So we sent that letter to Franklin County. Franklin County accepted it, and that was able to not only to have uninterrupted services for 6 months, but it also enabled or helped Franklin County to go ahead and derive their own human services department. I don't know what that's going to look like. June is coming pretty quick, but I know when it comes down to this specific item here, it's concerning to me because if we're funding a lot of this, you are taking that this program on in Benton County, it's only so many dollars. I don't know how that's going to affect. We have across the river, Franklin County, are they going to absorb that? Are they going to create that program to help that? Or everybody's going to be coming over to Benton County if that is no longer available at Franklin County, which then that absorbs those funds pretty quickly. Do you see what I'm talking about, or does that make sense to you?
I do. That's kind of been an ongoing concern of mine. I know that Franklin County did hire a manager for their human services department that they're standing up, and so we've had some discussions. I'm not exactly sure which services they're looking at providing. But that's been a concern, and my hope is that they provide the same services that we provide in Benton County, because I agree with you. I think if one county is providing a service and the other one isn't, there will be bleed over into our county from residents from another. So,
and it just makes the problem bigger versus if we work together on that. So, okay, no, I appreciate that. I'm looking for a motion. Oh, go ahead.
One last comment too, and I was looking at the packet that got sent to us, how it shows like in 2023,
It says homelessness from previous year, 33% in Benton and Franklin County, negative 30%. And then we're basically 15 or 5% in 2024, and then negative 13% in 2025. So all negative. But then what's crazy is the rest of Washington in 2024 was positive 53% of homelessness. So I'm glad that we're doing what we're doing to help, this out to where it's showing even, the state of Washington 2025 is negative 27%. And then Benton, Franklin County, we're negative 13%. So I see how it's helping out the community. But when I was looking at it, it's like, holy moly, 53% in 2020 from 2023 to 2024 in the state of Washington, to where if we weren't doing this, it'd be getting a lot worse in our community.
Well, and it's tough. We have, and like I said, one of our line items in our consolidated homeless grant is for emergency shelter.
Yeah.
And we tried to focus more of our spending during the winter months when it's cold, when we don't want people dying on the street. We don't want people on the street in May, but they're not going to die from the elements in May like they would maybe in December, January. And so there were times during the winter months where we had 100 families in hotels that would have been on the street without that funding. So funding is really important, and that's one of those things that we don't, we have when we get our CHG contract from Commerce's 2-year contract, and so this will be 1 year into it on June 30th, and so we have funding going into FY27, but we don't know what that looks like for July 1st of 2027. So again, the dollars are needed in our community.
Did we get a notice yesterday from Commerce about some housing thing?
I don't know. I'm usually a little behind on my emails.
Okay.
We'll blame the dimming of the lights downstairs on the mayor down there.
Okay.
It's better not strobe light. I wish there were strobe lights so we could start dancing. Oh, no, not with this Michael.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the 2025-2030 Benton County Local Homeless Housing Plan.
Second. We got a motion and second on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Stand by here at the very end. All right. Next one, we have authorizing the Chief of Corrections to sign a memorandum of agreement, MOA, with the Department of the Army for use of Benton County's work crew program. And Lieutenant Shelton, you're on.
All right. Well, good morning, commissioners, members of the board. Here before you today, we have a memorandum of agreement between Benton County Jail and the Department of Army, specifically the Army Corps of Engineers. The goal of this is to assist the Army Corps of Engineers with homeless camp cleanup and debris along the shores of the Columbia River. As you know, we already do our part with interstate on-ramps and off-ramps, and they have a need. They came to us with that need. We thought a work crew would be a good solution for, individual instances. And so we'd like to enter into this agreement with them and do our part to help keep the shores of the river clean as our citizens get out and start enjoying the outdoors.
Any questions, Commissioner McKay?
No question.
This is a pretty basic one here. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve authorizing the Chief of Corrections to sign the MOA between Benton County Jail and the Department of Army on behalf of Benton County.
Second. Once again, we have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thanks. All right, we'll move down to declaration of emergency in Benton County, waiving competitive building requirements regarding Hanks road failure. And our Deputy County Administrator, Mr. Rasmussen, is up.
Morning, gentlemen. About a week and a half ago, maybe a little less than that, we had a sink or a culvert plug up on Hanks Road in a large embankment. That resulted in water building up behind that, and we believe that it's been washing around the culvert now. The culvert probably has failed and is plugged. And so then a couple of days later, we had a large diameter sinkhole appear in the top of the embankment there on Hanks Road. It was about 20 feet diameter and 6 or 8 feet deep and continues to grow. So we've closed the road to keep people out of there for safety reasons. But in order to facilitate a prompt repair, we need to declare an emergency and be able to waive the traditional competitive bidding requirements. We are working through our normal channels. We are getting quotes and doing price comparisons, but we're doing that without having to go through that formal sealed bidding process. So it's going to expedite that. So right now we have our crews out there removing the asphalt on the top. We want to be making progress as we can to get this road fixed and open as soon as we can. It's a major route that the farmers up in that area use, particularly during fruit harvest. So we want to try to have it all repaired and open by then. But right now we're just asking for the board to formalize that declaration of emergency so that we can enter into contracts if we need that assistance. We're going to do as much of the work as we can ourselves, but we're going to continue to make evaluations as we go. At what point do we need to bring in some outside help just so we can keep up with all of our other work and make it as cost competitive repair as possible?
Mr. Delvin?
Yeah, I just, that one storm we had, I don't know, 10 years ago, it's happened a lot. We put a policy, their policy let us down on this culvert here. I thought we were supposed to keep those cleaned out.
So yeah, we do keep those cleaned out. In this case, we found this one, we don't have the ability to get down to the bottom. We're going to construct that. I think that the pipe itself is collapsed. It's probably about 40 or 50 years old. It's a steel pipe. What we see a lot in the steel pipes in this area, this happens to be excess irrigation runoff. So it spills from the canal. The farmers pond it up and use it to irrigate their crops, and then it ultimately runs through this pipe. They put a lot of copper sulfate in the water for irrigation. That interacts badly with the zinc and the galvanizing on these steel pipes, and so it results in early failure. So we have constructed access so that we can get down there and monitor the new pipe that goes in, but we think this pipe just collapsed from old age, so it wasn't a matter of
It wasn't
cleaning it out.
being stuffed up.
Yeah. I mean, there's debris and things that go in there, but we think, obviously we can't see in there right now, because last time I was out there, it was still 3 or 4 feet underwater. But I think what we're going to find when we get down there is, a portion of it collapsed, but debris got in there and plugged up whatever was left. And it's just the nature of the pipe being old. But we do have a policy, and our crews actively go and clean out culvert pipes.
Right.
A few years ago, we invested in a Vector truck. That's the trade name, but a big truck that has the appropriate equipment to allow them to do that. Because we definitely don't want to have these things happen and cause a lot of property damage. In this case, it's the road that's damaged. We haven't damaged any surrounding private property, so I don't think we're at risk of any claims coming back from this, but we still need to get it fixed.
Okay. Commissioner McKay?
None.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the declaration of emergency in Benton County waiving competitive bidding requirements regarding Hanks Road culvert and roadway failure.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, we'll go to other business, and Commissioner McKay, anything? Commissioner Delvin?
You guys received the email too about putting a letter in the Yakima County, their elected officials, during the legislature passed and signed by the governor on removing sheriffs, and newly elected sheriffs. I don't know. We'd like to send a letter along those lines. Like Joe Bob over there.
Yeah. I have no problem with it. Yeah, I agree. Anything else?
No.
All right. I really thought about this in the last week or so, and I'm grappling with this portion. I'm trying to see how to say this and focus at the same time with this migraine. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the media right now in reference to the recovery center. I know we had human services we just talked about, the juvenile detention center, and I was notified last week. I was out of town for a day, and I was notified in reference to a comment about separating the Benton Franklin Health District last week as well. So we have Benton Franklin Health District. That's probably going to be split. We have juvenile detention. We have the recovery center, which is in the media right now, and human services. What I would like to do, because I think there's a lot of impact on that, is potentially not next week, but the following week, to give time to staff. Is potentially have a workshop on that and have all those different departments, have the administrator of Benton Franklin Health District come in and show all the different services they provide. We'll point them out. Have Kyle's from Human Service come in and show and map out all the services Benton County provides, bullet pointed out. Have Juvenile Detention Center and how we operate the Juvenile Detention Center, have all those bullet points printed out on the services we provide. And also the Recovery Center, because I think there's some issues on that. There's only so much money to go around to support the Recovery Center. It was supposed to be a joint venture, a joint contract. That's no longer the issue. I heard someone from the media on a neighboring county talking, well, they got to take anybody and everybody from if they have Medicaid. I understand that. But also I want to go ahead and show what the services that Benton County provides on the Recovery Center. I think that's important. And what some of the issues are that could be pros and cons, as Benton County going on this alone, if we do it alone, and what the impact is for costs on our budget, Benton County's budget, and what the cost is to taxpayers of Benton County as well. And I think that's important for both sides of the river, because we have people that work, we have employees that live in Franklin County and live in Pasco as well. And I think it's important for the news media, I think it's Keeper, Apple Valley, KD&U, and the Tri-State Herald, and everybody else I might have missed, to understand what our the financial impact is to Benton County and Benton County taxpayers, but also just to people that live in both counties, and how we can make all this work. I think that's important. So if you guys would be good with that, not next week, but the following week, give everybody time and get staff set up to where they could bullet point those out in columns from Human Services to Juvenile Detention. Get the administrator over there from Benton Franklin Health District. I guarantee you she would want to do it, as well as Recovery Center, and just show what we provide here in Benton County. And I think there's some potential issues that I can see on our budget and some risks that we need to have mentioned if we move it forward. And so, if you guys want to do a workshop, I'd be happy to do a workshop on that.
Yeah,
I think we need to.
I'm good with that. I read some article I saw local news clip last night on that the Franklin County Commissioner, Commissioner Bauman, said, well, his understanding is that anyone shows up has to be treated no matter where they're from. Well, that's true in one sense, but I don't think it's right for Benton County taxpayers to be paying for Franklin County residents' treatment there. That Franklin County needs to step up and sign the agreement with Comprehensive to make sure that they are getting treated, but the Franklin County is using that 1/10 of 1% mental health tax that they passed. And I think the Franklin County Sheriff outlined it brilliantly in his 2-page letter that, Benton County residents shouldn't be paying for Franklin County residents for treatment. I don't want to refuse anyone over there, but I think if the burden becomes a burden, and their attitude in Franklin County is, well, people show up, they'll take care of it. Well, that's not right. If you're going to take that kind of attitude, that shows lack of foresight, lack of leadership in my mind. And to say that, well, we haven't got a bill yet for the rest of that recovery center for the betterments. Well, it's out there. It's open. Why don't you just send a check? You have to wait for a bill. I don't wait for my bills to pay my bills. I know something's coming up. I pay it. I don't wait for a bill to come necessarily. So, I don't know if they're just, I don't know. I get frustrated with them to hear them, talk over there. I don't know if it's a lack of leadership, a lack of knowledge, or it's just their attitude that, that they don't want to participate. If the health district goes, by law, my understanding, they have to have some kind of health program in the county. So how are they going to do that? Are they going to hire district people? Are they going to contract it out? Are they just going to leave Franklin County residents out of the health district options too?
And so that's where I think it's important to list all the different services from all 4 of those items I mentioned out, pointed out, to show what the services are, and then compare services as they're going to be split, and we're going to have neighboring counties provide the same services. And if not, we need to be proactive on how we approach those from our budget side, because our budget's only going to get more challenging as we go. And I want to make sure that every department, every elected official that is oversees the department, every director in all these departments have the funding they need here in Benton County, but also, trying to protect taxpayers' money in Benton County. This is an issue about, I say, quality of life, public safety. And that's what those do, is quality of life and public safety here in Benton County. And that's what all four of those are mentioning. So I think that's important to do. Like I said, I prefer not, but once I got notified about a commissioner making a comment about the health district on splitting that up potentially from some senator or congressman from Kentucky doing something, I just thought it was important that we address it. We show the public, we show the media, and hopefully they do old-fashioned journalism, and they will have a seat at the table if we do this. They can ask some questions of staff so that you get this right, and maybe that'll get everybody on the right track and show some collaboration, some teamwork that I think is needed, so that we all, once again, public quality of life and public safety. That's all what those four issues are right there. I don't know about anything you have to say, Commissioner McKay. Are you good with that? All right, we can get staff to go ahead and put something together and get with the appropriate departments and put that together and bullet point that out in columns. We'll make it pretty simplistic. And then I don't see Katie in here, but if she can go ahead, and Amanda, if you would just let her know if she can go ahead and get the appropriate media and invite them in so they can sit there and ask any questions they want as well. That being said, we got the Benton County Coroner here. Mr. Leach, do you have anything?
Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, sir. And then we have the County Treasurer here, Mr. Spencer. We appreciate all. Thank you, sir. And we have the County Auditor here. Brenda, you have anything? Nope. And then we have the County Sheriff here. All right. All right, we'll move on. And and I'm a little slow today. And we have the County Prosecutor here, Mr. Eisinger. Do you have anything?
It's great to be here.
All right, thank you, sir. That being said, we're going to go to executive session, and the first item is the review qualifications of applicant for public employment. And our Chief of Corrections is here, Chief Carrero. Go in, and how many you need? We'll go 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, we're out of executive session. No decisions were made.
I move to approve the salary request form for Jasmine. What? My microphone's not working? Oh. Okay, so I move to approve the salary request form for Jasmine Maldonado as presented.
Second. We have a motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Next one will be potential litigation with our chief civil attorney, Mr. Altman. And how long do you need, sir? 20 minutes. We'll do it for
Oh,
20 minutes.
Not 5 hours. Okay, good. Okay.
And the time looks like it's 9:42.